Hi, I'm Sue from Garden Moxie. Today we're in my kitchen and I'm going to show you how I preserve autumn leaves. I love to bring the outside inside the house to use as decoration, and autumn leaves are the perfect thing to use this time of the year. So I hope you'll enjoy this. Let's get started. So there's a couple of methods that can be used to preserve autumn leaves, and my preferred method is to preserve them in vegetable glycerin. So before we get started, what we're going to need in order to do this project is you're going to need some food grade vegetable glycerin. I just bought that on Amazon. And you don't necessarily need this, but it helps to also have some rinse aid for your dishwasher. You need some pruners if you need to trim your branches, something to measure your glycerin and water in. I like to use a large bowl. You can also use a plastic tote or a glass Pyrex dish if that's more convenient for you. But since I'm going to be using branches, I like to have something that's pretty deep. And then last but not least, of course, you need to have some autumn leaves. So I just cut these down this morning, some autumn leaves. And in my experience, I've found that maple leaves work the best for this method, at least they have for me. And the yellow leaves really work well, and I've also had really good luck with like the orangey and the red color. Although the color will fade a little bit when they are preserved, and I've found that the yellow are the ones that hold the color the best. So there's a couple of ways that you can do this. You can mix what you need to do in order to get the mixture so that it'll preserve the leaves is we mix 2 parts of water with 1 part of glycerin. So you can take that mixture and put it in a vase like you see here and place your branches inside of it, and the branches, and if you add a couple of drops of the dishwasher rinse agent, that kind of helps the branches to pull up the glycerin and water mixture into the branch stems. Honestly, with this method, I've found when the branches are big like this that they do have a tendency to dry out before the glycerin gets into the branch. So the way that I like to do it is to actually fill this large bowl with the glycerin and water mixture. And then what I'll be doing is cutting these into smaller pieces, but I'm going to just dump the whole thing into the bowl and preserve it that way. And you'll be surprised at how long these branches will last. I've actually got some branches that I preserved last year and they're still usable. And they fade a little bit. The color will gradually be reduced as time goes on, but they're still beautiful and they're a great reminder of the autumn colors. So I wanted to show you these branches here. Now I realize that these look a bit brown, but these were actually the same type of branches that you see here in the vase, and I preserved these a year ago, actually more than a year ago today. And you can see from these that these are still supple, which is why the glycerin is great to use, because it makes it so that they don't dry out and they can be put in a vase just like this. Obviously they don't need any water, and you can use them as a decoration. So I found that the yellow leaves, and first of all, maple leaves work the best. The yellow leaved maples work really well. They retain their color really well. I've had the best success with those, but I've also had great luck with the orange colored ones. Now you can try this with any type of leaf, of course, and later I'm going to show you, I've actually preserved some Japanese maple leaves, and they will actually lose their color and turn green, but they still make a beautiful decoration. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is we want to make our mixture. So again, we are going to mix 2 parts of water for every 1 part of glycerin that we use. And so I'm just going to go ahead and do that right now. So I'm going to use 2 cups of glycerin. And then I'm just going to put in 2 cups of water, and I'm just going to grab that from the sink over here. There's 1. And here's the second one. And I should clarify, these are 2 cups each, scoopful here, if you will. And so now when I see this, so just to clarify, I should go back. So I had 2 cups of glycerin and 4 cups of water. Now, when I look at this, I still want this to be a bit deeper. So I'm going to go ahead and add 2 more cups of this glycerin mixture. And just pour that in so that I can have a very deep bowl, because I want to be able to put a lot of branches in there. The other thing I found is that once the 3-day period, the waiting period for the branches is over, I can go ahead and remove the branches from the water and glycerin mixture, and I can use that mixture again for something else, for leaves or for some additional branches. So that the mixture does not go to waste. All right, so that looks plenty deep enough. And then what I'm going to do is add a few drops of the mixture for the dishwashing soap, the rinse agent, and now I'm just going to mix this all together until it becomes clear. And you'll be able to see when it clears up here that the glycerin has dissolved into the water. And that's what you're looking for. You just want this to be a real consistent mixture of glycerin and water so that you can preserve your leaves in it. All right. So now once this mixture is ready, I'm going to go ahead and prepare the leaves and place them inside of the mixture. So now that we've got our glycerin and water mixed together thoroughly, it's time to add the leaves. So how I do this is I simply take one of my branches, and you can see I need to make it a little bit smaller. If you wanted to use the whole branch, you just need to get a container that's big enough to hold your branches underneath the glycerin and water mixture. And I found that just cutting these into smaller sizes works perfectly fine for me. And I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then just put these in the mixture. And I'll do this with each one of these sections of branches. Just going to submerge them under the water. And I just use my pruners, regular pair of garden pruners, to cut the branches. It's not a problem. You definitely want to make sure everything is submerged, because anything that's above this mixture is going to dry out. So I always kind of overdo it, trying to get as much in here as I can. And then I'll take these tiny little branches and put them in here as well, because I want to use all of these beautiful leaves for some type of decoration. And I'm also going to use these. So now once I have these in here, I want to weigh them down, because I do not want them coming up above the water. So this actually doesn't look like it's heavy enough. What I use is just a bowl or a plate, something that can hold that down. So let me put this in here upside down like that. And honestly, the weight of this glycerin bottle will be enough weight to hold that down. And I'm going to hold these into this position. I'm actually going to have to be careful. I'll take a little bit more care than I've done here in the video to make sure that these big leaves are underneath the mixture because I don't want these to dry out. And the same with these here. I may have actually put too many in here. I'm getting kind of greedy, I think. So learn from my mistakes. You don't want to put too many in because the important thing is to be able to keep them underneath the water and glycerin mixture. That actually looks pretty good. I'm just going to put that on there to hold it down so it doesn't float up to the top. And what you do now is try not to get it so that it falls here. There, that'll work. And what you're going to do now is you're just going to leave this here, leave the leaves inside of this mixture for at least 3 days. I like to usually leave them 3 or 4 days. When you remove them from the mixture, you'll know if they're ready because the leaf is going to be supple. So if there's any dryness, you know that it's not quite ready, and just submerge it again and let it rest. Now what I have here are some branches that I actually started to preserve a few days ago. So I haven't looked at them at all, and I thought we could do it live here on the video so that you could see what the branches will look like when you take them out of the water in the glycerin mixture. And I did a bunch of different kinds of leaves. So first of all, I did do one of the yellow maple leaves, and you just take it out and pat it dry. And really that's all there is to it. So this leaf is super supple. It's been sitting in the glycerin for 4 days, and this is perfectly ready to use for any kind of decoration. You could, what I was intending to do with the single leaves is to make a garland. So these turned out actually really quite nice. And I'll just take all these leaves out. And you can see here this leaf was a little bit damaged, and so when I put it in the glycerin it did get some holes in it. But you can kind of see that it still has that orange color to it. Same with this one, it's got a little bit of an orange tint to it still. And now this one is a good example. Sometimes not all the leaves turn out. So this one I wouldn't keep. It's a little bit damaged on the edge. And so I would just put that into my compost bin. So once these are out, again, I'm just going to pat them dry with the paper towel. And there you have what the maple leaves will look like. And I'll just set these over to the side here so that we can see what else I preserved the last time that I tried this. I also preserved some cedar branches because I think that they would make great wreaths, and I preserved some branches of some Japanese maple. So here is the cedar branch, and it's hard to tell because cedar does keep its color. So when I feel this branch, however, it does feel a little crispy. So I'm not sure if this actually is going to work. I might need to leave it in the glycerin a little bit longer. But I did want you to see what that would look like when it came out of the glycerin. I also wanted to try preserving some fern fronds. And these look great. And I want to save these in case I decide to do some cyanotypes in the wintertime, because clearly you can't go into the garden to get flowers in the wintertime. So that turned out great, that fern frond. Actually got a couple of them. This is the second one. This one turned out nicely also. So I'm just going to go ahead and pat that dry. And you can see that it really retained its color. It most likely will lose its color once it's exposed to the air. So I wouldn't be surprised if these turn brown. But again, I am using these not so much for decoration as I'm going to be using them to make cyanotypes in the winter time. And last but not least, the thing I am most excited about is I wanted to try preserving some Japanese maple leaves, because who doesn't love Japanese maple leaves? I mean, they're just the most beautiful plant. And I was hoping that I could preserve some so that I could use them for decoration. I wanted a really large branch, which is what you see here. It's a bit messy, sorry. And it's going to take me a little bit of time to dry this whole thing off. So rather than doing the large one here in the video, it would be the same way. I'll just do the smaller one. And you can see it here. And the smaller one actually maintained its color. And I am not going to be surprised if it doesn't start to turn a little bit green once it's exposed to the air again. You can kind of see this color here. But this is going to look really pretty, just as a decoration to put on the fireplace mantle. And there you have it. So that's what the Japanese maple leaf looks like. And again, these leaves are super supple, and they should last for quite a long time so that you can put them in a vase and use them for decoration. So I hope you enjoyed watching how to preserve autumn leaves in glycerin. Just a few things to keep in mind. These are natural materials, so you'll want to keep them from freezing. So these are for indoor use only. If you make a wreath out of them and they're outside, if they freeze, it will damage the leaves. You also want to kind of keep an eye to make sure that you removed all the glycerin with the paper towels so that they don't drip on anything. They shouldn't. I haven't had any issues with that, but I have seen that as a warning. And then I have found that the yellow maple leaves work the best for me, and that the orange and the red ones also look very beautiful for decorations. And so you can see here, these are leaves that have been preserved, and they look beautiful, and they'll be able to be used for any kind of decoration. You can make a garland, you can bunch them together and make a wreath. And you can also have fun and try different things. Some things work better than others, but just like I showed you, I was able to preserve these ferns, these fern fronds, and I'll be able to keep these during the winter time so that I can make cyanotypes outside when it's sunny. And I also tried preserving a arborvitae branch. Now, this arborvitae branch, I'm not sure how this is going to turn out, so it's going to be a fun experiment to see how it does. It does feel a little bit crunchy, so I'm not sure if it's going to dry out once it's exposed to the air for a longer period of time. But you know what? If you don't try, you don't know. So I hope you found this video helpful. We'll see you in the next video.